Alright, how's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. Alright, let's go and get everything set up. It's been a while since I streamed, so we'll see who shows up and is around. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Get some of this stuff closed down. Need to turn on YouTube real quick. All right. Oh, I've got to verify who I am, apparently. Yes, it's me. All right, there we go. Turn everything on. All right. ATER dead. What's up, Arthium? How are you, bud? Also, what moon when? I think we got some time for Atarian. We're how far away? I think, what was it? Today was the first day that they could actually do anything with it since the warrants. I wouldn't expect it to go right out the same day as the warrants or unlockable. That'd be kind of obvious. Let me just see real quick. Yeah. Or is it tomorrow? I guess it's tomorrow, right? I'm poor. Yeah. We all are right now. Oops. Where was that supposed to go? Can I go back? Is that undo? There we go. Alright, let's take a look. So it looks like we're actually kind of breaking out of this. Need to bring it up a little bit. Yeah, I think we're kind of. Is a warrant pump a myth? No, I mean, we weren't eligible for the warrants. So, I mean, the warrants can be started to be exercised starting basically today. I wouldn't expect it to go up exactly on the day. That'd be pretty obvious. Last time they ran it, I think 10 or 14 days after their warrants were unlockable. But yeah, like this run, I guess right here, their warrants were unlockable, I think, like right here, and that ran right here. So we're all ATER poor. Yeah. So, I mean, at this point right now, I think we just have to be patient. I keep messing these up here. Let me undo again. There we go. The real question is here, right? Because we had earnings here. We're going to have earnings here. And this is, I guess, was it supposed to be first quarter, right? Let's see. Period ending December 22. So we should have earnings on May, and then the one we really care about should be this one right here. I think this one's supposed to be third quarter. So roughly around June is where I'll put another line up here so you guys can see. I'll put an arrow. All right, so what was it? June something? So somewhere in this time frame would be where I kind of think we might see some movement. I'm starting YouTube yoga, and you're messing with my schedule. Why don't you do yoga to my voice? Now we're doing downward dog. What's up, Dirty? What do you guys want to cover? Yeah, so I would expect some movement to happen sometime in this time frame, personally, because I think there's going to be this earnings, and then there should be earnings around here-ish. And then that means at that point, this is where they think that we're going to start going through possibly. And I guess the other one would be roughly November 8th. So we could put one more if we wanted. November 8th-ish. So sometime in these time frames. All right, so this was armistice. I should put it probably like this. Armistice can unlock the warrants. We'll line that up there. This is a possible earnings, right? Because there's an earnings in around May 15th. And then the other one would be roughly in, or is that July? Is that July? That's August. So this one needs to get moved to August. And then this one should be fine. All right. So we're going to label these as down dog. Can wait, Dirty. What's up, Hustle? Right. Earnings, question mark. And then we'll do that here as well. Earnings there. There we go. I think he said it was possibly this one. The market is going bananas. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a really weird time. Like, it's like nothing's super, like, look at this thing. We were nicely, hold on, let me get out of this, do auto, there we go. So we were nicely respecting this, like, downtrend, right? So we had been basically, every time it came up, it bounced. I think I need to adjust this slightly. I think it got moved last time we were here. But it basically had been respecting this, like, downtrend. And then basically it broke through here, and then since then it's just been really choppy. And it seems like nobody knows which way is up anymore. I mean, the SPY is easily manipulated for one particular reason, which is you have a bunch of different sectors that all have different weighting. So if you want the SPY to pump, all you have to do is, like, the heaviest weighted stuff is the tech stocks. So if you just pump the tech stocks, or if the tech stocks have a down day and you want to pump it up, you can pump some of the other smaller sectors. They have enough money to do that. All you have to do is slap the ask, and it makes the things run. Or you stack a bunch of, like, 0-day, like, to expiry, you know, and the market makers will hedge it for you. So, like, it's just weird right now. Like nobody knows. Like we're in this no man. So we're right here, right? This is where we finished on this line. Look where we are. We're smack dab in the middle between this gap down here at 396 and this gap up here at 419. Like we're sitting here at what was it, 409 roughly? Yeah. Like oil right now is like running, but natural gas is not, even though they are producing a bunch of natural gas. But like until they pull some like, I guess reserves, like right now natural gas is just taking a beating. Like if you look at like the futures gas, let's do futures. Natural gas futures inch up following production pullback. Okay, so they are pulling back now. Let's take a look at it. But I mean, this thing went under $2, and then it was in the ones. Hadn't been that low in like 60 weeks. Let's see what they have here. Yeah. But oil, for example, if we want to look at like other commodities, if we want to look up what they have. All right, so we have crude oil, WTE or TI. Yeah, like all this stuff's been going up because they basically was OPEC basically pulled back production, which means that they're going to have more demand and with the summer coming up, and the prices are going to get higher just because they basically are just building in profit for themselves. Where is... I was looking for... There we go. Yeah, so we're just in a weird spot. Inflation will never go down. It will go down eventually. It's just going to be painful when it does. That's the truth. Like, the SPY at this point right now is going to take... yeah, they're going to have to just keep interest rates up high for a while. And it's possible they need to raise the federal terminal rate to back, probably 6 or maybe 6.5, which will slow down the economy, put us in a recession, and then everyone's going to be complaining. But at least we have a direction. We're just in this weird like limbo right now. Because, I mean, you start looking at these and it's like they just huge swings. And it's getting real choppy right now. This was 18, right? You had that perfect V shape. They pulled in, started putting some liquidity into the market, and then COVID happened, and then it just was like foot on the accelerator. I mean, this thing, look how many gaps this thing left. There are gaps down here at 229. Whew, that's low. So I expect us to see at least minimum the 280s again. Like, which is roughly this area right here. So I expect these gaps to fill at some point. But who knows how that's going to go. Are we going to just chop around here until we fall off a cliff? It's hard to tell. Yeah, I think here's my opinion. So with banks especially, if you have to tell people and keep reassuring them that banks are fine and there's no problems, that means there's a problem. Because if there was no problem, they don't talk about things when they're going well, right? Or if everything was peachy keen and A-okay, like, they wouldn't say anything. But they keep having to reassure people, like, no, 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 banks are fine. And then Jamie Dimon comes out and is like, yeah, banks are going to be in problems. Like, did you guys see the comments from him? Oops. Jamie Dimon says the banking crisis is not over and will cause repercussions for years to come. And he's head of, like, the largest bank in the U.S. Like, this wasn't the finest hour for many players. I mean, like, this guy knows a lot of stuff. And so, I mean, I'm telling you right now, yeah, they're just trying to prevent if they had a run out of banks, then they would have to, like, insert tons of liquidity. The problem here, there's a mixture of what's going on. So here's part of the problem, right? So you had, I wonder if we can pull it up on here. What can we do? Like, I don't know. Let's do like a 30-year. All right, so that's, but that's not exactly what I want. I want to see. Let's see. Is it under economy, federal funds rate? Okay. So for a long time, right, we had this like 0%. They moved it up slightly back in like 18, and they had to cut it. And they had it cut until basically right here. But how quickly this is rising right now, this federal funds rate, is basically, it's caused a bunch of issues, because what's ended up happening is this. So with these things rising, money markets are finally becoming relevant again. And if anyone doesn't know what a money market is, it's basically just a safe place where you can hold some money that earns much higher percentage than your typical bank. So people who had like been holding some of their money in banks, right, deposits, that money is now flowing out of there for like these money market accounts. And so when you don't have money that's liquid like that in banks, what ends up happening is these banks can't basically put out the same sort of like ratios that they used to. So when it comes down to it, what ends up happening is, like, you can see back in the 70s when they had these like 17% like, interest rates. Like, people were getting interest rate, like home loans in like the 20s at the peak of it. Like, that's pretty crazy. But I mean, they're going to have to raise this back up. And so it's possible we see like a 6-7 handle on the federal funds rate. But this is just rising super quickly, going from 0 to basically like 4 point something. And they're going to do another, rate hike, which will bring us up to, most likely, I think, if they're going 25% higher, we'll just roughly call it slightly under 5, right? So all of this matters, because how quickly they move this, they basically pulled the rug out from a bunch of these small to medium banks that were not prepared for this, because they gave out a bunch of loans at basically like 0%. And now that people are pulling money out, they're not able to hold up their deposits, which is why the banks had to have that flood of deposits come in. So just something to keep an eye on, because as money's flowing out of these banks, they've had to insert a bunch of like liquidity from the Fed back into these banks just to save them. If not, then there was going to be more banks going belly up, and that's not what you need. So okay. The Great Reset. All right. What's up, Quick? Let's see. When you have to make reassuring statements, it's too late. Yep. Okay. Any thoughts on TRKA? Okay. So I know we covered that a while back, and this one was one where I believe the CEO deleted his own Twitter account, right? Is that right, Jason? What's up, Johnny? How are you? Okay. TRKA CEO deletes Twitter. I think deletes Twitter. Yeah. Let's see. Is he back on Twitter? No. So he deleted his Twitter after they basically went through a huge dilution. How bad was the dilution? If I remember correctly, yeah, it was pretty significant. They basically ran from like 67 million shares up to like 344. Technically, they have cash for a good amount of time, but they're super unpopular right now with retail. There's still another 49 million registered warrants here at 25 cents. So my guess would be they're going to, and they also have these Series E preferred, unless they wrote those off. But either way, nah, it looks like they still have them. So that would issue out another 200 million shares when converted, and they would receive $50 million for that. Yeah, I mean, like, they hugely diluted on the shareholders for TRKA. So, Troika. At this point right now, like, they've got a pretty big float. They're technically cash flow positive as of last quarter, and they've got a good amount of cash, or they should after, diluting that much. The biggest thing is going to be probably they have to go through a reverse split to get the stock price over $1 again. So I would expect a reverse split coming. So that's kind of my thoughts on Troika right now. Is just at this point right now, they have already diluted massively on their shareholders. There's still a good amount of, not a good, I should say, there's still a little bit left of dilution. But for this point right now, you're probably going to be, averaging down, and then it's going to re-split at some point and reverse split, and then, it's up to you how long you want to be in it. Technically, you're not at a huge risk for much more dilution at this point, and technically they're cash flow positive, so that means they are making some profit. We'll see if that holds up with the next earnings, but like most people are going to be stuck depending on where they bought in. How about the GNS buyout for Troy? I don't see why, number one, that makes any sense, personally. To me, at this point right now, what's GNS's market cap now? Yeah, like GNS is actually a smaller company at this point than Troika, and they're not cash flow positive. They're still burning cash. So, like, I don't see how that makes sense, to be completely honest. Unless it was some sort of basically like thing where it was like, hey, listen, I'm a popular CEO. You're a CEO that everyone hates. Um, you know, you're cash flow positive. We are not. If we combine our efforts, I can be the face of the company. You can make sure the company runs. The Troika division of the combination runs behind the scenes. So he can. I think Roger could be the face, and then at least they would have a cash flow positive business. But I don't see a reason why Troika would have any interest in that unless they really just didn't want to deal with the public, and they wanted to kind of repair, But I mean, I think Roger burned some bridges too when he didn't really disclose all the bad things that were in the S3, and when it happened, it went boom. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that are not happy with Roger. So I don't know how popular he is compared to, I feel like there's a lot of momentum that got lost after that happened. So, what's up, Random? How are you, bud? So, I don't see that going on. I don't see any reason why Troika would have any interest in that. But hey, weirder things have happened, right? Can you look at BCAN? Sure, quick. BCAN. Okay. BCAN. It's a integrated software cannabis company. CRM Software Beyond owns and markets a proprietary CRM known as Benefit CRM. I guess they make a product that manages like a CRM software for the cannabis industry. Their company plans includes construction of 4 state-of-the-art greenhouses. So it sounds like they're also a farm too. It's weird. How does that work? Are you a software company or are you a weed company? Like, make up your mind. Okay. So I guess they're waiting on the license. They're trying to get the approval right now of growing, I guess, that in Israel. But, like, where do you make your money? I guess that's the question. I will tell you, compared to a lot of things I've seen, this is probably a little bit safer. Just taking a look right here. It's got pretty low shares outstanding. You still have, they're not even burning, they're burning about a little bit over 1 million a year. Now, is that 36K a quarter? So they've got basically a little bit over 2 years runway. They do have 400,000 warrants at 130, but that's not much dilution. So at this point right now, the question is, let's look at their filings. But I hate these things. Okay, hold on. How are they doing on cash? They've got 2.3 million. What did they say here? That was 3.6. So what happened? They must have had something, or that was as of December. Is there anything before then? They're still losing money. Though they did lose a lot less money than they did the year before. So they grew their assets, though. Yeah, I mean, like, so it's a low float. So my guess would be if Zip Trader is pushing this one, it's because, number one, it's relatively safe. They're not going to be, needing cash right away. They have a low amount of warrants. And if you got in super early on this one, let's see what their chart looks like. Yeah, I mean, Sorry. My gap hasn't filled right there at 5. So, I mean, ownership right now. So they have a pretty small free float, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot going on, but obviously if you're early on this one and it was, it got some attention, it could probably move. Like, is this a great stock? Probably not. Could this thing squeeze if enough people were to buy and hold it for long periods of time? Yeah, probably. Does it have options? Let's take a look. No, it doesn't show it on this. Probably won't show it on this one too. Maybe it doesn't have options. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't have options. Yeah, so what I would say is this. I mean, if you're in early, then yeah, this thing could probably move if enough retail was to go into it, take an interest in it. But, there's nothing like spectacular about their financials. It's just they're pretty safe. Like you could, if it doesn't go right, you can hold this thing for like a year or two and not have to worry about further dilution or, anything in the short term. So, they just had earnings. They weren't great, it looks like, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter for a lot of these squeeze stocks. So, yeah, I mean, like it's just, things that could possibly set it off would be, for example, if they got this approval for the farm in Israel, that could be good. Though they will have to like staff and build them, so that would be expenses that come out. But it also would obviously increase their revenue. So, I think it sounds like these guys want to start their farm, but they just haven't gotten approval yet. So that could be a catalyst down the line. They're not really heavily shorted. Institutions don't own a lot, though, but it is a small float. It's like a 12 million share float, so closer to 13, but let's say 12 and a half. So you're looking at a very, very small float that if retail was to, scoop up a bunch of these things, when it's sitting down here in the twos, yeah, it could probably move back up into this like 3-4 range would be my guess. You're saying it's hard to borrow right now? It's possible. I mean, I'm not looking, but let's see. Yeah, like there's barely any short interest on this thing. I don't see it hard to borrow. It's not on the threshold. I guess when it went through the spike up here, it did have some shorting happening, so they did raise it there. Cost to borrow, though, is pretty high. So, I mean, once again, you're looking at somebody had shorted 100K against this thing as an estimate. So, like, you're not talking about a ton of money. Like, paying 300% on, like, 100K for most of these big guys is, like, nothing. So, it's not going to... Can you look on Ortex for cow shortener? Sure. This guy, 2.47 million market cap. This run and then bloop, gap down. Muffin Man. All right, let's take a look. Sure, hold on a second. Let's just see what they're at. Looks like cow right now is not even heavily shorted. There's almost no shorts anymore. This thing's just dead. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing going on with this thing. Yeah, like you're talking about less than 21K shares shorted. So, all right, let's take a look at HCNWF. Is that right? Ortex doesn't like it. HCN WF. I got nothing. HCNFW. Oh, it's an over the counter. What do you want me to look at, man? It's already ran. Look at all these gaps up there. I'm not touching anything over the counter right now. But, I mean, obviously there's a lot of volume happening on this thing in comparison to before. I mean, it just looks like a pump and dump to me. All right. PXMD. I think we talked about this before. So essentially, this is what I told them. I think it was, I can't remember who was it. He's in our group. Dog something hand grenade or something like that. Yeah, something dog poop hand grenade or something like that. Whoever that is, he wrote some DD on PXMD, and they tried pushing it out on the short squeeze. And like I give him credit, he did his homework. What the only problem is these right here, right? So they've got these convertibles right here. They're not registered yet, but at the same time, as soon as they get registered, you've got an issue. You've got this equity line of credit here as well, and then you do have some of these convertible note warrants and the IPO warrants. Now, these ones are not a huge deal. Neither are these ones. They're only 800,000 shares, but this is a very small float. So that kind of dilution can hurt. They're full ratchet as well. So Lind has those and these. They're full ratchet and variable installments. They kind of did the math on them, but at the same time, part of the problem with squeezes is you need to get interest into it, right? So as of right now, the last time we looked at PXMD, For them to actually get some sort of squeeze out of this thing, they need to get volume and they need to drum up retail, right? So what's ending up happening right now is you've got, it's not on threshold anymore. The FTDs are not really mounting up, right? So despite them sitting there and having 458, part of the problem was this. Everybody was looking at Ortex, right? And Ortex at the time was saying that they were like, where is it? They had 12 million shares outstanding, but apparently like insiders owned most of it. And the truth was that insiders owned like, I think it was half of it, which is why the float is here, right? So let me go back to this. Because it's been a while since I've talked about this one. So let me see if I can find it. But that's the reason why they haven't been able to squeeze it, is because they need to drum up enough interest on it, right? Okay, here we go. Where are the warts on this thing? That's right. Yeah, and they're also not. They're non-compliant for the MLVS as well. Let's see. I know I talked about this. Here we go. Yeah, part of the thing was they had a really small float, is what they were going off of, and we said that the float was much bigger than what we said. So roughly between 4.4 and 6 million would be the float. You still need to get enough retail basically to, FOMO into that, right? So even at these prices, where the price right now is, what was it, $2.08, you would still need a good amount of retail to actually like FOMO into that. And then at that point, once you've gotten a bunch of people in, they're gonna start having problems with locating shorts and stuff like that. But they would have to lock it up. Dog poop hand grenade had only been using 818K for the float, because that's what Ortex was saying at the time. But it looks like they have now at least updated this thing to account for the right amount of here. Yeah, see right here. So the short interest right there, they're still using the wrong number. They have to be, because that's way too high, 63%. Yeah, see, they're still using this right here. And the true number is actually closer to 6. Right? So this, it's 6.24. I did it and it came out to roughly like 4.5 million free float, but like, I mean, either way, it's way more shares that you would have to lock up. So, I mean, if you wanted to be hypothetical, you would probably need to have at least retail owning a good chunk of this, because institutions do not, as you can see right here. They own less than 1% of this entire stock. So what you would be seeing here would be, if you took, let's just say 6.2 million divided by, let's just say you had, I don't know, let's say you had 5,000 people, right, buying it. Each one would have to buy basically 1,200 shares, and then right now the stock price is at 208. So you'd have to get people to spend at least $3,000, roughly 2.5 or like 1,200, or sorry, 2,500 to $3,000 each to lock up the float. And at that point, then you would have a potential for a squeeze. But like, because it's just such a low, float stock. But like, you have to get those numbers in, and that's why they've been having a hard time getting it to squeeze, because right now, retail is not sure about anything, and so seeing something that's only 5% shorted is not super enticing. It's not a sexy squeeze number, though this could be something that could squeeze if it got enough attention, but you would have to convince a lot of retail to drop between 2,500 to $3,000, and there would have to be at least 5,000 people across the world doing that. So, let me catch up. I still can't believe people are still getting people asking buying puts is a good idea. Sub 50 point, there's no point. Yeah, at this point right now, like, wait till the stock resplits and then short it. Like, they came so late to the game. Like, the time to short or like buy puts on BBBY was when it was at 7. Like, buying them at when the stock is sub 50 cents. Like, what are you gonna get? Like, there's no point. Unless those convert over during the thing. But I mean, like, yeah, I'm not. That's not something for me. Like, I never bought puts on it. I just wanted to remain impartial because I was doing DD on it. So I didn't want to like sit there and tell everyone, hey, this is like a really bad thing, and then be making money off of it. To me, that didn't feel good. So I stayed away from it, and I just gave my honest opinion. So, yeah, they've got to vote on it still, and then it has to pass. But, I mean, people are like, well, I don't understand. It keeps going down each day. I'm like, they're still diluting. Like, Bed Bath & Beyond is still diluting. So, they have an active ATM, and they don't have a floor anymore. Like, this isn't hard. Oops. Like, this should not be a difficult thing to understand. And everyone's like got their tinfoil hats on. And I'm like, no, like, look at this. Look how much dilution you have on the table. You have 835 million shares on the table for an ATM, including 154 million in warrants. That brings you to over 1 billion shares, because the current shares outstanding right now was listed at 428.1. Like, back when it was 117, I told people what was happening, and they all called me a shill. And now look at them. Like, they've got 2 months of cash burn at this rate. They need to raise it to pay bondholders, or else they're just going to file for bankruptcy and to sell off the stuff for scraps. Like, this is all bad. Nothing here was good. Like, they have this new ATM, and they are probably using this right now, because the stock price keeps going down. So it's like super easy for them to be like, yeah, like, this thing's not going to squeeze. Like, the best case scenario is when the dilution stops, the thing spikes a little bit because, it finally will get some breathing room. But, like, as long as they're diluting, which until they keep raising money, they're going to continue doing. So, like, yeah, it's not a good thing. They're paying way too much. Yeah, Random's right. They're paying way too much money to their CEOs and their board members. This is a wealth transfer from retail to the board, the bondholders. This was just taking retail's money and giving it to the people that are in power, and that we're going to stand to lose a lot if Bed Bath & Beyond actually went bankrupt. Yeah. Yeah. Bed Bath & Beyond is dead. Not just ATER dead, but, like, gone. Yeah, this is not a good thing. And even if they were to survive, let's do best case scenario. Even if they were to survive, your shareholder equity is worth nothing, because after the reverse split that they'll eventually pass, you're going to sit there and they're just going to have more room to dilute, and you're just going to get hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered. Like, They're not profitable. They're just bleeding, and their cash burn's insane. Like, even if they get the cash burn even down to like 200 million, you're still behind the eight ball. So I bought 2K PXMD. Yeah, I mean, everyone would need at least between 2,500 and 3,000 shares, but you also need to get 5,000 other people to do that with you. Exactly. I mean, but it could cause a squeeze, but it's just one of those slow moving, like, until retail FOMO's in on this thing, you've got a lot of room. And the problem was a lot of people got suckered in by this. They saw this thing, the free float's under 1 million. We're going to squeeze this thing to the moon. All we need is a couple people. And the truth is, this float's actually more like 6 million because institutions don't own this stock. Like, if I go back, institutions don't own this stock, right? So you don't have a bunch of, like, where is it? Yeah, institutions own less than 1% of the stock. If you go to holders, like, they own like 33K shares, the biggest one, which is UBS. So, yeah, it's not great. Just, if you like the company, buy it, and you're hoping for a squeeze, sure, it could happen if you get enough people, but without like a huge inflow of people, it's tough. To check with your broker. Slow moving target. My hands aren't steady. Maybe I could hit the bullseye. Maybe. I mean, like, I'm just thinking about, like, part of me, though, was interested in something that we haven't talked about in a while, which is, you guys remember HUSA and INDO both, like, spiked last summer? It was an interesting thing. So here's the deal. This is one that I'm, like, sitting there going, so institutions actually own like 12% of this thing, right? So if you go to holders, you've got BlackRock, Vanguard, a couple other big, like, Citadels in, like, there's a couple big guys in on this thing, right? Not a ton, but, like, there is some, short interest there, or regular interest in the stock. So it's not like nobody's doing it. There is a little bit of short interest, which I don't really care about that. But the float is really small, right? So you've got like under 10 million share float, right? And this stock right here, they don't burn a lot of money. Their cash burn is like almost non-existent, and they still have like 6.6 million in cash. So, like, they're not profitable, but at the same time, they're not like in a bad spot. But I'm wondering with the oil, like, if oil is going to get, with OPEC doing their, like, tightening, I'm wondering, is there somehow, like, or some way, because they've already depleted all these things, right? So they have cash right now. They still have this, like, they can raise $1 million, but, like, honestly, that's nothing. And then on this August shelf here, but, like, they have to register the shelf, and they would have to put out in, like, an S3 for dilution for that to happen. But I'm just wondering, like, is this one of those, like, maybe, something like this could possibly squeeze, if energy all of a sudden spikes through the roof again like it did last April. This stock went from... Let's go back to April. Yeah, it was like it exploded right around the Russian war, right? So this was March into April. But, I mean, it literally went down from like $2 a share, which I think it's right now $2.90 right now. And it ran all the way up to 16, right? And then it had this other run up from basically like 280 to 8. So, like, it's had some pretty big spikes when everything got tightened with oil. So could be interesting to look at. Yeah, there was a couple of them that moved all at the same time. I just particularly like the fact that they're American based, and Indo was more like Indonesian. I didn't have a lot of like oversight into what's going on there, so I chose who's to take a look at. But I'm thinking about they did gap up the other day, right? And I don't think they filled it. They came up right here, so there's technically a gap right here that needs to fill. So we'll see. But like you can see right here, you had a bunch of volume when the OPEC news came out, and then here, we're kind of sitting there. But I'm just wondering if this thing has a projection to like, make a little run. I'm not touching HKD. Ugh. I know some people that are, but it's such a weird. It's like, how is that not crime? Let's take a look. InMed Pharmaceuticals. You had that one high volume day right here. Another one here. That was a decent volume day. INM. Okay, they've got pipe warrants already registered for 304. Stocks at 108. These ones won't matter. They've got these pre-funded warrants, though. That's not great. So they can exercise these. That's Armistice also. But wait, those are already depleted. Sorry. Take that back. Take that back. They don't have anything on the shelf, though, so that's safer, I guess, technically. But they still have these warrants out there. Small float. Not a ton of institutional ownership, right? In fact, non-listed. Let's see how much cash they had. Cash went from... So cash went up. So $11 million, we figure... Cash burn right now is about 2 point. So they've got less than a year left. But I mean, if people got into this, right? If people FOMO'd in, and that's a small float, 3.34, it's half the size as PXMD. So I mean, but that's part of the thing. Like you'd have to get people to be buying this stock, because like on the surface it's not profitable, and so. Yeah, I mean, your overall risk is still pretty high. But, it is what it is. Okay. What time is it? It's 11:30. Coming up on that. All right, I'll jump off. I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys, see if anything was going on. Everyone doing good? Hope everyone's well. I'll continue watching things and seeing. I gotta reconnect with L. We talked on last week, and we were trying to get a date to get together and start working on this scanner thing. I'm hoping that we'll start being able to push out some interesting plays on the Discord. So I want to get. We basically are combining TA and bringing in an API to basically scan across a bunch of different things, kind of like FinViz. So, but it's going to combine some TA into it, and also I'm going to add another layer of like me looking at warrants and dilution, and then hopefully, if all those things happen, we can start pinging plays that pass like all those tests. So that's kind of the idea right now. But you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm still really busy at work right now. It's been like completely nuts. So I'm sorry I haven't been on the Discord a ton, but hopefully the mods are holding it down and everything's going well. And you guys let me know if you have any issues. You can DM me always. So, but yeah, have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Peace.